Hello, everyone. Leadership today isn't just about hitting targets. It's about building organizations that thrive in uncertainty. But how do leaders strike that balance between driving performance and fostering a healthy, engaged workforce? So today we're going to dive into all that with Shane Jensen from NewQuest Consulting Group. Shane, thanks for joining.
Welcome, Rob. Thanks.
Awesome. So Shane, let's maybe start. Today we're going to talk about balanced leadership. And as I read that, I was kind of understanding what does balanced leadership mean to people. So maybe let's start there. What does balanced leadership mean, and why is it so critical in today's workplace?
Even the concept of balanced leadership, it's a big piece of our company because it influences probably just about everything we do on our leadership training and development side. And so for some of you who've been around for a while, you can remember back in the day, a lot of organizations would look at someone's technical, operational, they'd look at your education, your skill set. They'd literally look at, you talk about balance, they just look at one side of an employee or a potential leader, and they'd be like, oh, you're technically, operationally proficient. You have education, skill, or as some of our great clients say to us, we don't have tons of letters, but it's not my first rodeo. And so we would traditionally be like, oh, he or she or they would make a great leader, and we'd put them into a leadership role. But as I'm sure as you know, as a leader of a great organization, and probably many of the people listening, is that you can be technically, operationally brilliant. No doubt, I think it's really important. But in this quote unquote day and age, you also need to have really strong leadership skills. And so what we call about balanced leader, it's just simply saying, yes, you need to be technically, operationally proficient, be really good from that side. But if you're going to choose to be a leader, you need to understand how to lead, influence, hold people accountable. And that's a whole other set of skills. So to kind of wrap up your great question is, we recognize how important that is, and our value proposition is we work with leaders on soft skills, leadership skills. How do you maximize the performance of your people and blend that with a balanced technical, operational side?
So without giving away the secret sauce, how do you go about doing that? How do you go about scorecarding where people are at in that journey and where they're at with balanced leadership and what you just talked about?
Yeah. So more and more when people say scorecard, or how do you correlate leadership training or leadership skill development or leadership or performance or executive coaching? What we always like to say is, one of the classic quotes is, people don't leave organizations, they leave bad bosses. Or people choose to stay and be really productive and do great work, provide exceptional client satisfaction, if they have leaders who truly understand how to inspire them, create a workplace culture. Again, no doubt, I know for a fact that we need to create a workplace with constructs and technical piece. But I spend 40 hours a week at work. And so the workplace experience is just as important. And we know that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so leaders that commit to developing communication, respect, accountability, looking at different types of leadership styles, because we have such a diverse workplace. We know it directly impacts productivity, your bottom line measurables. Retention of talent is absolutely huge. We know this. All of that's influenced by a leadership soft skills. And that's how we measure our results. So it's quite powerful.
And how early do you start? Because we have obviously a team, and I'm a leader. I would hope, maybe not a good one, but I'm a leader. When do you start developing those how do you encourage a leader like myself to work with our team and create, for them to become leaders? How does that fit in? Because I think part of it is interesting. You're saying, as you were talking, you grew up in, I'm a byproduct of the leaders I've had. Right. So how do I, as a leader now I'm thinking about this. And about this term balanced leadership, how do I instill that now into the future leaders in our company?
I'm legendary sometimes for being blunt.
Shame?
Exactly. I think it's important that, one of the things at NewQuest is we do a lot of employee leadership training and development. But we also do a ton of what we call consulting work. So our firm actually gets the phone call to do large-scale change projects. We actually work around investigations. We do lots of good to great work,
right.
but we truly work with companies on how to increase the overall performance of the organization. And when we do that, we obviously have the pleasure of working with leaders.
Right.
And with a bit of humor, we get to see why certain leaders perform really well.
Right.
And we're like, oh, look at that. They do this, they do that. You can't ignore productivity, high KPIs, client satisfaction, retention of talent.
Right.
But we also watch leaders, actual what we call like data on where leaders, the choices and the behaviors they exhibit directly impact their measurables. So we take this actual real like objective data consulting work and we spin it back into our leadership training. So to answer your question, which is a great question, is why would you hire somebody to be a leader or put somebody in a leadership role, knowing that on their first day of leadership, how they behave, how they act, how they hold people accountable, how they talk to them, how they drive performance, literally makes or breaks it on the first day.
Yeah.
Everybody has a bad boss story, but everybody has a good. So in essence, it's like, why wouldn't you give leaders the training and the skills right away? Because all it does is take them from good to great. Why wait till when things go sideways, which usually happens? Most of our clients call us up and be like, Shane, we've had these issues, these performance issues, we've lost talent, workplace bullying, harassment, heaven forbid. And now it's in a reactive situation. Our firm fully believes that technically, operationally, balanced leader, but give your leaders the skills in this day and age to drive performance through your organization by being good leaders. Don't wait.
So I'm curious, actually, Shane, then, like, what are some of the common challenges a leader would face when they're trying to implement balanced leadership then? Like, what are some of the uphill battles you've seen leaders have with that?
Yeah, I think, we've been talking about leadership and we talk about the balanced leader and we talk about, which even if you're to step outside of NewQuest, anybody that's been in the workplace for a while that's a leader recognizes that there's lots of opportunities to grow and develop as a leader. So again, you think about the balanced leader. We're technically operationally strong. We have lots of skills, but then we're always looking at ways to influence our people, to lead our people, to hold our people accountable. And I think the biggest opportunity, no matter what, is leaders need to consistently say to themselves, we spend a lot of time and money and resources on professional development, continuous education, on technical operational. Where we at NewQuest position ourselves and our clients really love is we're continually providing that on the leadership side. And that is where, many of our clients attest to that is, it's just ongoing, much like the technical operational side. Invest in leadership, keep it going, pick and choose. There's lots of different ways to do it. But again, you want to have, keeps coming back to your great question, you want to have balanced leaders, especially in this day and age with such diversity in the workplace, in different generations, different age groups. It's just, we can't ignore it.
No.
We see when leaders, you have good leaders versus bad leaders. And even to all our listeners now, you all have a good leader story and a bad leader story.
Sure.
We all do.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. So I'm curious, actually, can we bring it to, you've worked with a lot of clients and the ones you can share. I know we can't probably name names, so I'll leave it up to you. Like, is there, when you think back, like success stories where you've worked with companies through this transforming them with balanced leadership, like how that's transformed an organization and some practical examples of how that's worked? Yeah,
great. Yeah, so what I love is you're talking about, and it's such a nebulous word, but we're talking about culture.
Right.
Yeah. So the biggest influencer on culture is leadership. And all of us know how important leaders are and how they directly impact culture. And culture impacts our direct measurables. It impacts retention. It impacts client satisfaction. It impacts profitability. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And so what we'll see is a lot of our clients now reach out to us. And they're like, not only do we want to give our frontline leaders your balanced leader training or give them leadership skills to make them balanced leaders, but we recognize if we want to create a really high performance organization, we need our managers and our directors and sometimes even our senior executives. So you get what we call this leadership alignment, where if I'm an amazing frontline leader working with my direct reports, my manager above me has the same leadership skills. And so you get this really amazing culture of leadership where everybody's kind of on the bus Lots of different seats on the bus,
yeah.
but we're all going in the right direction.
Right.
And a large part of what comes from that is leaders are all using these consistent leadership tools, creating this culture which leads to, as we all know, great place to work,
right.
profitability, retention. But I don't want to leave it on a negative note, but we all know what it's like to have key leaders
yeah.
that aren't on that proverbial bus.
Right.
You know, it does create challenges. And so if companies say, hey, let's create balanced leaders, but let's invest in all our leaders, it's incredible, the results we see with our clients.
Is the term, it's interesting is the term balanced leadership a new concept, or has it been something that's been around for a while? Have you guys been working with clients through balanced leadership for a while now, or is it a fairly new concept in the leadership world?
Well, I no doubt that, again, respectfully to our competition, you know, we're not the only players out there that provide leadership training.
Yeah.
I think, to be blunt, we provide exceptional leadership training.
100%.
But the balanced leader concept came from us recognizing that, again, what I've shared with you at the start of your great question is, we have such a diverse workplace. If some of you are listening right now who've been around for a while, over the age of 40, 45, you know, it was the baby boomers.
Right.
We worked for the baby boomer. And it was like my way or the highway. You didn't need to have really strong leadership skills.
For sure.
But if we think about a multi-generational workforce now, you just can't tell people my way or the highway.
No.
It requires skill. You know this, Rob, as a successful owner.
Right.
And so we recognize that leaders, again, to wrap up your great question, we need to be technically operationally sound.
Yeah.
But you need to know how to lead and hold people accountable and build trust and respect and drive performance and build a team. And so I'm proud to say that NewQuest and all of our leadership work falls underneath our balanced leadership philosophy.
Right.
But it's not a brand new concept. No. I don't want to take any credit for that.
No, for sure. Yeah.
But I love your question. We're proud of that. And so we focus everything through that. And that allows our clients to be like flexible to our clients' needs and all that stuff. So
It's interesting. One of the things, now you're going to consult Rob, but one of the things that I've struggled with is that when, you know, and really since COVID, this has happened a lot where you have remote workforce, right? So you don't have the ability to sit one-on-one with a client. So what are the skills that I would need to embrace in order to effectively be a balanced leader when you're putting now this one other layer in where I'm talking to my employees sometimes over Zoom?
Yeah.
Does that add another layer, or the fundamentals are still the fundamentals, Rob?
Fundamentals are still the same.
Okay.
Yeah. And no doubt, that would probably be another great video shoot for us to do, is hybrid workplace, especially coming out of COVID.
Right.
So it was a big area of growth for our firm. And that's a great question.
Yeah.
The good news is leaders, how they choose to lead, whether it's hybrid or not hybrid, whether I have a team where I have offices throughout Western Canada and I'm Zooming in or Microsoft Teams in, it's still the same fundamentals.
Okay.
We know this. Is there certain things that we need to be aware of when I'm dealing with a hybrid group? Yes, 100%.
Sure.
But it doesn't change.
Right.
And great question. So, yeah.
Interesting. So what are some of the skills, like let's park sort of the hybrid side. So what are some of the skills do leaders need to develop in order to embrace balanced leadership?
Exactly. So in essence, you know, we do this great piece, but our leadership programs, based upon your question, fall underneath the leadership, you know, the balanced leader.
Yeah.
And within that, you know, there's a core set of concepts, which again are not rocket science. No. It's not rocket science. Right. So you have your technical operational side, and then underneath the balanced leadership, some of the key areas that we're seeing huge demand for our services is around, let's call it self-awareness.
Okay.
So a high degree of self-awareness. Sometimes they call it emotional intelligence.
Okay.
We're seeing that leaders who embrace a style of coaching is really effective in this day and age because there's such diversity. And so coaching provides a leader with a great leadership tool, a leadership style, where they can really engage their people. We're seeing that there's a huge need, for leaders to understand the importance of accountability, how to hold their people accountable. That's a skill set. Behavior change is massive. Question to our audience is, how do you change the behavior of an employee who's not meeting expectations and do it where it isn't this friction or conflict piece? Speaking of conflict, we all know this. Conflict is pervasive.
Yeah.
It's one of our phone lights up all the time. People are like, hey, we have conflict, come work with us from the consulting or training.
Yeah.
So I think leaders It's been around forever,
yeah.
But I think leaders need to be really good at understanding why conflict occurs and how to keep conflict at a minimum and create win-win outcomes. That's a skill set.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's obviously the generic term team building.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about a barbecue on a Friday afternoon. I'm like,
which are cool, though.
Which are great. I'm all for it. Sometimes there's fun and games, and
Yeah,
but sometimes how quickly, Rob, can you bring a new employee up to speed and function at a high level with the rest of your team? That's team building. That's a skill. Empathy, trust, respect. We know that trust and respect, we see it in our staff engagement surveys, a lot of our data, our leadership assessments. One of the biggest reasons leaders succeed is they've harnessed what we call a level of respect or trust with their people. That's a skill set. So the question is, if we know respect and trust directly impacts bottom line measurables, how does a leader cultivate that? So that's part of our training. So you can see you get these core concepts that are not, they're not like they've been around for a while, just where the world is today, and we see it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. It's interesting, actually. How do you know? It's funny that you say that. You know, these they've been around for a while, and they're things that people should know, but we don't do it because we get busy in our day or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So how do you guys work? Like you're not a you're not a one and done company. You don't just come in and do a webinar and go, okay, hope it works out for you guys, right? Like, can you speak a little bit how you engage and work with a leader through that journey, because you need that accountability. Like as a leader, you need that accountability as well to someone. So you can speak about how you work with companies and leaders through that.
Yeah, great. You know what? I'll reference this topic, so balanced leader.
Yeah.
And so I'll quickly say to you or to anybody listening, if you think about your first day of work, and whatever job or skill set or training that you did, your technical operational side, you knew that it took you commitment, time, investment, energy, a recognition of the value of learning something new, moving outside of your comfort zone. So we say, to answer your question, it's the exact same as leadership. No doubt you could come and do one of our great 2-day leadership courses. For sure. The question is, our clients will say, is how do we make it stick? Right. And I love that question. And so, again, we believe that just the way the world is, some of our clients are just like, Shane, we want to send somebody to your 2-day leadership course. Or we want to do it. And I think that's absolutely excellent.
100%. Yeah.
But if our clients are open to saying, hey, we want to invest in a leadership program or create a really customized that's unique to our organization, we want to stretch it out over a period of time, you definitely have a higher uptick in learning the skill sets. And there's lots of other great things you can do. But to be blunt, we believe that good leadership, and I'm not asking people to be excellent leaders, it is a commitment, it is an investment. It's a lifelong learning process. And however people get there, it does take time and energy. And so you can do everything from do leadership training courses. We offer our clients leadership assessments. We do workplace assessments. We do lots of teamwork, leadership training, lots of what we call executive or leadership coaching, which is really powerful. So you mesh coaching with finding out what your staff think of you as a leader, Rob. So if I was to evaluate you as a leader, exactly what would you say? But we all know this. You know, there's some good stuff in there. And then incorporating that into leadership training and ongoing, it's incredible. You get the results. Yeah.
So let's maybe tie a bow around this and say that if a leader wants to start embracing this balanced leadership philosophy today, what are the steps? Like, what are the first steps they should take, and how would you encourage people, other than work with Shane? That's what I would say.
Thank you.
But what's the first step that they should do?
Great. So again, obviously, our firm provides leadership training and development. I think we provide exceptional training, but I'll speak candidly. I think any leader who wants to say to themselves, I recognize where my strengths are as a leader, but I also recognize that I'm leaving some proverbial money on the table. There's an opportunity for me to go from good to great, to get better. Or, to anybody listening, there's times, I know for a fact, that leaders get feedback that they need to change, that their behavior is creating challenges for the organization and it's impacting bottom line measures. Whatever it is, I think that's a good place to be. And then just like we reach out to build our skill set on the technical operational, I would say, obviously, ideally reach out to NewQuest. But the most important part is, as a leader, you say to yourself, I want to improve my leadership skills. So to do that, I want to look for training and development opportunities. I want to look for potentially working with a coach. I want to have workplace assessments or leadership assessments. I want to commit to the process and train myself. And at UQuest, we provide all of that.
Interesting.
I just love the fact that a leader wants to get better and is willing to go down that road. To me, that's sometimes the hardest part.
I was going to say, that's almost step one.
That's just step one.
You need to be willing to actually do it and put the work in to do it.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
We find ourselves really respecting any clients that reach out to us.
Right.
But there is times where we'll say to clients, probably leadership training where you are as an organization or where you are as a leader isn't probably the first step.
Right.
Because
they're
not in. They're not invested yet. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And we can look at other options.
Yeah, I always say, like, we live in the branding world, and if garbage in, garbage out. Like you need to have the foundation needs to be built before you go do the next level. And that's sort of what you're saying. You got to have not only the commitment from the organization as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So there it is, and that's the best return on investment for our clients. Is no doubt we get lots of people that send their leaders to our open enrollment leadership courses.
Right.
They're really popular.
Yeah.
But we find that what our clients love is back to this leadership alignment piece. Is we as an organization are committed to building really good leaders, no matter whether they're frontline, middle, or senior, and we'll invest in them because we know the ROI is there. And like you said, that's where you see really powerful. But again, if you're a brand new leader, you're with a company, small or large, and you're like, oh, we have a new leader, we want to give them some leadership skills. Yeah, we have great stuff. Yeah. And they'll get a good foundation through our 1-day or 2-day trainings.
For sure.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
But leadership is, as you know, Rob, is an endless journey.
100%. And changes. And I think and I know you and I were talking before as well, saying that like this balanced leadership isn't just a theory anymore. It's like a necessity in today's world. Like in order for a company to really be successful long-term, you need to embrace this. Like I'm a big believer in that because I think the companies that don't are going to fall behind. I really, truly believe that.
So I'll just say that we have hard, objective data that supports that. We have qualitative, quantifiable data that simply states that. Yeah. And when I say in this day and age to our listeners and everyone, if anybody, has been in this world for a while, we are dealing with a very different labor group.
100%.
It's incredible. Mm-hmm. And so a leader who's technically brilliant, I think that was once a great skill.
Yeah, yeah.
But now they need to be just operationally strong, really understand the process and systems, but they also really need to understand what we all share in common in the workplace are these things, as we like to say, called humans.
Yeah, yeah.
And the labor force is just different. So I love that you said that. Yeah. And we have data that supports this. Yeah. How leaders behave, act, show up directly impacts bottom line measurables.
We haven't even talked about managing robots, Shane.
No.
That's a different
episode.
My
goodness.
So Shane, thanks so much. I love the insights, and I think it got me thinking, and I hope it got our listeners thinking. That's really what we're trying to do tonight. That's why I love even those like the workshops you do, because it just gives people an ability to dip the toe in the water as well, to see if they can be committed. I think it's a good, hey, go do that. And then see, okay, are you ready to put the effort in? But I'm curious if there's anything as we wrap up. Is there anything maybe around balanced leadership that we haven't covered that you want to make sure that the audience really understands or gets, or we checked a lot of the boxes that we're hoping to?
Yeah, I think to wrap, and it's a great question to wrap this up. I think a lot of people choose to be leaders. There's lots of different reasons why we choose to step into a leadership. There's high monetary value. Yeah. It's part of our career aspiration. But for the most part, we recognize that we're going to lead people.
Right.
And I truly believe that, we spend a large part of our life at work. And if we're going to choose to be leaders, it can be a high stressful.
For sure.
Being a leader is so stressful, but it's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
My challenge to everyone is, why wouldn't you invest in your leadership skills, knowing full well that your success, your happiness, your career development is heavily correlated with your ability to lead people.
Yeah.
And I just think sometimes that gets overshadowed. But success in the workplace for leaders is going to come from really strong leadership skills, which directly impacts happiness, low stress, high engagement, career satisfaction, on top of everything else, profitability, retention of talent, increased client growth, all that stuff. And so that's the way I would leave it, is like, hey, leaders, You can't get away from this stuff.
Yeah.
Invest in that side of yourself, and it's incredible, the rewards. And I know many people know this.
Yeah.
They've invested in that soft skills.
For sure. So Shane, as we wrap up, if the audience is listening and they want to learn more and connect with you and your team, what's the best way for them to do that?
Great. Yeah, we have a great website. We're a small boutique consulting firm, and we really pride ourselves on exceeding client expectations. We love to connect with clients. Even if they don't end up working with us, we love to listen to them, see if we can create value. So on our website, there's lots of different things that you and I have talked about, Rob. There is a piece on our Balanced Leader. We also have a really strong LinkedIn presence. So awesome. Myself personally, I have my LinkedIn page, but we also have a new Quest. There's lots of good stuff there. People are more curious about some of our clients we've worked with, some of the projects we're on. We're on Instagram. I could do old school, the telephone, but I'm trying to remember if we even have a telephone in our office anymore.
You can fax Shane.
You can fax me maybe. So, but yeah, our website, or just go onto our LinkedIn, just look at New Quest, quick Google search. There's lots of good stuff
Awesome.
there.
Well,
Thanks,
I follow
Rob.
you guys on LinkedIn, and there's really good information on
There's
there. So
excellent,
it's awesome.
yeah.
And the website has really good resources as well. So I encourage audience to just check it out and reach out. And if you have any comments as well, feel free to drop them in the comment section in the video as well. So Shane, thank you. It was a great discussion.
Thanks, Rob.
I think got people thinking. That's what we want to do. So
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, we'll see you next time when we'll tackle another topic with Shane. Talk to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.